So welcome to episode 16 in this ongoing series where we're building a web application in Flutterflow. I'm sure you're pretty bored of me saying that by now if you've been following along. But in this particular episode, which is the season finale, of course, we're going to look at creating a detail page for our application. We're going to put our sticky note component on a separate page. We're going to kind of then make that look a little bit different to the actual key page that we've got. And we're going to add things like page parameters in there. We're going to have a very, very brief look at theme style widgets as well and how they can help you sort of more be consistent with your styling. And then there's a nice little season conclusion at the end there as we wrap up on some of the bits that we've learned so far. So there's a lot more to cover in this particular video. Let's get into it and let's get cracking. Okay then, so as an extension then to the very first episode where I introduced this particular application in this series, we're going to add an additional page to this application which is going to show a more larger view of our sticky note. We can come in here, we can put more content in and we can save it, and then of course it returns back then to this particular display. And what that looks like on screen is if I could just come along here and I just double click on one of these sticky notes, we're then presented with a brand new page. We've got some reusability here because we're reusing our component. We made some little adjustments to it to then make sure it expands across full screen. Now, this is not typically something you would do in this type of application, but of course the concepts and the principles that you're going to learn here can be applied to any particular web application project that you are doing. So what I can do here is I can just do what I did before. I can hit the little edit button here. I can carry on putting some content in here. I can hit the save, and then I can of course return back to that particular display. Now, one other little addition that I've made here is that when you click on the little X up at the top right hand corner, then I can come up with this very simple dialog box that allows me to just check to make sure that I'm absolutely sure I want to delete the sticky note. If I then confirm that, then what will happen is the sticky note will be deleted and it will return me back to then this particular display with the sticky note then removed. So lots to cover in this particular video, more building. So hopefully you're going to learn something. Let's now move into the main part of the video now. So first things first then, let's duplicate the home page. We're going to make a copy of the home page because we're going to use it as our foundation. We're going to remove all the widgets that we're not interested in, do a little bit of renaming, and that will give us our foundation then to build this next page out. So with the home page selected, just right click on it and say duplicate page like that. And of course I can just double click on here and I'm going to call this one sticky page like that. So I've got that one selected, so we know that's the page that we're seeing. So let's now remove what we're not interested in here. So we're not interested in the left navigation. If I just sort of close that down here, you can see the kind of areas that we would like. So left navigation is going to go, vertical divider is going to go because we're not interested in these being part of our page. So with the left navigation selected, just delete that. And then with the vertical divider, let's just have that deleted as well. So that's great. Now we need to rename our right content container because this is no longer a right content container, just to keep it with our sort of changing of name here. Let's call this one sticky note container, something like that, and just press enter. So that's great. We've got all that in place, and we can also delete out here within inside the content column. There's areas here that we do not need. So I think we can remove everything within inside the conditional builder. So let's remove the conditional builder completely. There it goes. And then we can now, let's rename some of these other columns here. So this is not going to be a scrollable column, so we can rename this. So with that selected, let's move up here. I'm just going to call this one sticky note column, just like that. And what we're also going to do now is we're going to go to the sticky page here itself. We've got some actions at the very, very top level. So just choose the action flow editor, hit open. Let's just remove these out. Let's delete all of these conditional actions. We're not worried about those. They've already been set on the actual home page itself. Let's just close that down. So now we've got that in place, let's add our container to the sticky note column. Now I'll explain the reason very, very shortly to why we're putting a container here, because it's going to control some visibility of our actual sticky note component, but we'll come back and do that shortly. Let's give this one a name. Let's just call up this one here called sticky note container, just like that. And of course the sticky note container can now be the recipient of our component that we created previously, obviously in the series. Hit the little plus, go to the diamond, choose the note component, and of course that is going to be populated. Now we'll come back and we'll do all the styling of this very, very shortly. Let's now focus on just adding in some of those responsive conditions that we've already applied to this page within inside the home page itself. Now of course they're going to apply here as well. So we know that we've got one here on the title row. On the left hand side we've kind of got these conditions that we set in the previous episode here on the responsive side. I'm just going to copy this here. So we're going to reuse this variable, we're going to apply it in exactly exactly the same place. I copy the variable. Now let me explain something to you just slightly here, because it's something you can obviously do it when you're actually working in your own projects. And you can see here visually that I can come along here and I can paste that condition that I've just pasted in there, and I'm going to see the same kind of look and feel on the actual screen itself. But let's full flutter flow a little bit, because we can actually give it the visual that we are looking for when we're actually designing these particular pages. If I were to put 60 in here now, and I was to put 60 in here on the right hand side, then I'm getting the kind of the visual feedback with inside Flutterflow that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, of course, if I were to run this up, then that would be the fixed values that it would get. Because I've applied and I've kind of almost like hard coded these values in, if I now come along and I click on this and I was to paste that variable, the actual condition that I've got here, and I confirm that, then the look and feel that I'm seeing within inside Flutterflow is exactly how I just had it. So you can do that with inside your own designs, really just to kind of get that visual feedback with inside the actual design canvas by hard coding values in. And then when you come along with your dynamic ones, then you're applying them at that particular point, but you're still getting the visual feedback with inside the UI that's the look that you're going to kind of get when you run the application. So we're going to come along here, we're going to do exactly the same here, paste that in and hit confirm, and then that will get the same kind of behavior. So that's great. We've got everything set up there. We now need to add in a button now that's going to return us back to the previous page. But what we want to do is, again, we want to promote kind of good Flutterflow kind of design skills, where what we can do now is we can actually reuse the style of a button and we can actually apply it to a button that we're going to actually put on this particular screen. So we're going to touch very, very briefly on themed style widgets. That I have got videos on my channel which covers that much more in depth, but we're going to cover it very, very briefly in this particular sort of episode. So let's now go back over to the home page and let me introduce you a little bit to theme style widgets. Then we'll come back here and then we'll apply a same look and feel on this particular page. So here I am then with the new note selector component displayed, and what I want to do is I want to introduce the theme style widgets in as far as what I want to do is I want to take the look and feel of a particular widget that we've kind of spent all that time styling up, and what we want to do is we want to kind of save that with inside Flutterflow that we can then apply to very similar widgets throughout the application. Now theme style widgets allow us to do that. Now this little plus button here is giving us all of the characteristics that we need for the back button that we're going to have with inside our UI. And what I can do is I can select this button here, which is really just a button here on the right hand side. If I right click here, what I can do is I can then say save as a theme style widget. So choose save as theme style widget. Let's give this a name. So I'm just going to call this one button primary for this particular example. Hit the create style. That's great, that's all applied. And you see up the top here, we've got this styling here called button primary. Now what that really is telling us is that particular widget now contains that widget styling. Now I'll show you where you can make changes to that very, very shortly. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back over to then the sticky page itself. And this is where we now want to introduce that particular button. Now, of course, I could just copy and then I could paste that on here. Of course I could, but let's create that brand new. So with the content column selected, hit the plus. Let's type in a button here like that. So we can see here we've got the icon button. Let's choose that. And there it is. I'm just going to drag that up in just between the content column and the title row. There it is. Let's give our button a name. So I'm just going to call this one, let's just call this one back icon button, just like that. Just hit the check there. Now you can see here this has kind of got the look and feel, the default Flutterflow look and feel, but of course we've got this widget styler which we can now select. If I select the theme styling here, now this knows that this is actually a button, so we've captured the style from the previous page and we've now applied that here for this particular widget itself. So it's this one is specific to an icon button, so you can have many of these different styles depending on how many you have inside your application. But here it's got the button primary. If I select that, now you can see here that my styling has now been applied to this particular button. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab hold of the title row here. I'm just going to go here to this condition and let's just pick that up, just copy this variable here. We've got that. Go back up to the button. So again, just as we did before, let's hard code those values in like that. There we go. And then I can come along here and I can now paste that in and hit confirm. And of course now our button's going to get the same characteristics that we've got for that particular condition. condition. Now that's great. So we've now got a very, very similar look and feel, and I can now come in here, I can move down here, I can actually now change these values. So although I've applied the styling, of course I can override those now. So with our actual icon, let's just choose the icon. But what we can do now is we can just do a search for back, for example here. Let's just choose this little one here, this chevron to the left, and that means that we can go back. So that is perfect. Now, let's go back to Theme Style Widgets. Let's talk a little bit about that. If I now go over to the option here on the left-hand side, we've got Theme Settings. You've then got this option here called Theme Widgets. Select Theme Widgets, and this is our button primary. This is kind of the styling that we've got now saved within inside our project. If I double click on this, then here we are now within inside the where we can actually set the design parameters for this particular widget. Now, what I could do is I could come in here now. I could say, well, actually, for all of these styles that's been applied throughout my project, I could make a change now. I could come in here and I could now sort of maybe change the color, the fill color. I could now force this to be a different color. When I make that change, then that will then be applied across all of the theme style widgets that I've applied for outside my application. So that's it in a million miles an hour. Please do go and check the other sort of video within inside my series, or certainly within inside my channel there, where I talk much more about theme style widgets. So for now, we're just going to hit save, and that's how we're going to leave it now. And we're going to carry on, and let's now work on the next part of this particular application. So pardon the interruption for just a second, but I just wanted to quickly introduce you to the Digital Pros No Code Academy. You can see it on screen at the moment. This is a fantastic evolving community for 2024. All of my video content is there. I've got exclusive videos there as well. I'll be doing live stream and different kind of events, and there's lots of little sections you get into, like the actual community area itself, where you can kind of engage with like-minded individuals. So please do come on over. There is a free trial available. You can kind of join and see if it works for you, and if you really like it, then please do become an Academy VIP member. For the little cost of more than just a Starbucks per month, then you've got a great community waiting for you. So I look forward to seeing you there very soon. Okay, so back within inside then our sticky page, let's adjust the height here. It's a little bit too much for us. Now, if you remember, we kind of had that kind of set up within inside our content column. We kind of had that spacing set at the beginning here. You can see here we got it currently set as 120. That's probably double the amount that we need. We don't need to have 120. So let's reduce that down to 60. Now, remember, what we can do here is we could come along here. We could apply some responsive behaviors here. Now, of course, as we kind of bring our size of our sort of screen down, we could then reduce that maybe down to then sort of 32 or then 16, depending on what device you've got. And of course, you can go away and you can kind of do that with everything you've learned in this particular series, if you are looking to extend this application more and use it for your own purpose. But yeah, we've kept it at 60 there. That just kind of makes it a little bit more uniform here. We've got 60 here, 60 here, kind of got 60 between here, and it kind of makes it feel a little bit more kind of consistent with the rest of our application. So that's now all in place. Let's now look at the actual sticky note itself. At the moment, we've currently got functionality inside our sticky note that's kind of fixed 240 by 240 in terms of size. But what we want to do is we want to actually extend our sticky note now to say, right, when you're in this particular mode, we want to extend the sticky note right across the actual screen. So let's now go over to the sticky note itself, the actual note component, and let's add another component parameter in, which we can then toggle that on depending on what screen we're actually in. So hopefully so far in this series, you really are starting to see the power of components. Again, I can come along here, I can make a change in one place, and then it can be applied throughout outside of my application. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go to the node component, just have that selected here. We're going to create a brand new component parameter. So with this selected here, just go to edit here. We can then create a brand new sort of parameter here, and we're just going to call this one is full size, like that. And of course, I'll type it right, and that's going to be a Boolean, so it's going to either be a true or a false. So with the type there, let's go down here and make some changes. And you can see during the actual recording of this video, the fantastic team of Flutterflow have made some changes to the UI. We've now got lovely icons now that represent each of the data types, so you're going to see these enhancements all the time from the team, which is great. So hopefully they won't be too distracting. You might have even noticed it, depending when you started this, even the color palette where you're selecting colors is now down in the bottom right hand corner, whereas before through the video is kind of in the center here. So lots of little enhancements that you'll see as you've probably been going through. So let's choose with Boolean, just select that. And of course, what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to say it's actually required, but I'm just going to toggle this into its red. So it's got false as a default value. So with that selected, just hit confirm like that, and then that component parameter is now been set. So now what we're going to do is we're now going to make a change to our container, and we're going to say, well, if that Boolean indicator is set as true, then just stretch that right across the actual page itself. Otherwise, just keep it the uniform 240 pixels in width and height. So let's select the note container. Let's do that now. So let's just move to the right hand side. You can see here we've got this kind of 240 by 240. Let's make that adjustment. So with inside the actual width, just choose the selector here. We're going to only worry about extending the width out. We're not going to worry about the height. Now, what we need to do is we need to move down here to the conditional value, if then else. Just choose that there. And then we're going to do this if condition. So just choose if here, and we can say is full size. So we're going to say now is if it said is true, then set the value here to then something, otherwise set it to the 240. So we're going to put the 240 back in there. Now, what is this value going to be? Well, it's going to be infinity. It's going to be whatever the width of our actual screen is. So with this actual selected, let's move down then to the constants, move down here, and then we've got this option here called infinity. So just choose that and hit confirm itself. So that's just the same here as just setting this little option here, which is infinity here, but we're going to actually more apply it here as a preset value within inside of Flutterflow itself. So that's now set for us. So what we can now do is we can go back now to our sticky page, and we can go to our actual note component, and of course here we can now go down here, we can set the is full size option, so we can have that set. Now, nothing you're going to see is happening at this particular moment. There's still further work that we need to do, because you can see here that our note is expecting us to pass in the actual note itself, and then of course we've then got these other actions here that we need to do something with, and we need to also pass our index in as well. So there's a little bit more work that we're going to need to do. So let's now move just back out of this. Now let's now start setting ourselves up with our page that's going to then take receipt of an index, which we can then pass in. We can pull out the note that we want, and then we can then apply it here to a page state variable. So let's move on to that section now. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit more interesting now. This is where we're now going to set our new page up to take receipt of a value that we're going to pass from one page to another. So our home page, we're going to double click on the sticky note. We're going to know the index, the position that we have with our sticky note, and we're now going to pass that actually into a brand new page. We're then going to pick up that index, that value. We're then going to go into the application state where all our sticky notes are, and say, right, I'm going to have that one, please, say index number 3. We're going to pull that sticky note out. We're then going to save that sticky note within inside a page state variable, so it's available to our actual page itself. And then we're going to then pass that then into our reusable sticky note component. Wow, that sounds a lot straightforward. It really, really is. So on the sticky page itself, so with that selected, let's first create our page parameter. So here it is right up in the top corner. So hit the little plus, hit on add a parameter, and we're just going to call this one index. So just type in index here. Now the type that it's going to be an integer, so it's going to be a number. So just choose the top one there. Now, of course, this is going to be required to our particular page, so we can keep that as it is. Just hit confirm, and that's now all set up for us. Just another little thing to point out here is we've also got this root option here where we could give our our sticky page like a unique name. So for example, we could call this one / like detail or something like that. But for now, we're just going to call that one sticky page. Right. So when this page now loads, we have that index available. So what do we now need to do? Well, at the very, very top level of our application, this is almost like when the page loads, we then need to go into our application state. We need to pull out the actual sticky note itself, but we need somewhere to save it. And as I said before, we need to create a page state variable. So up here, we just need to select this option, state management, add a page state variable, and we're just going to call this one note like that with our type. We can come down here to data type, and of course the only one that we have available inside our application is note, so just choose note, and that's all that we need to do. Hit the confirm. So we've now got that available to ourselves. Let's now go into the action flow editor, which is at this top level of our particular page, and it's the very first entry point where we need to pull out that sticky note itself. So move over here. Let's then move to the actions here. Bring up the action flow editor. Just make sure you've obviously got the sticky page there selected. Bring up the action flow editor. And of course, here we've got the on page load. That's where we now need to do that piece of work. So the great thing here is that it's there's only literally one action we need to do. Really, really straightforward. Hit the add action option. Just type it in here, state here. Okay, and we want to update the page state, because of course this is just a page that we're making a state change to, so hit the update page state. Choose the add fields. So of course it's the note. This is what we want to load into our page state variable. Select the update type. Now we're going to set the value itself. Now the value to set, so just hit the little selector. This is where we now need to scroll down. We need to go to app state. So we're going to make a call out to our app state. We're going to grab our notes list. The available options to us, of course, is to then get the item at the index. So we're going to pass in either 0 for the very, very first one, or 1, 2, 3, depending what position. Of course, we're passing that in. As I said before, hit item at index, and then the list index option, we just want to say the specific index itself. Now the specific index, this is where we now need to grab hold of that page parameter. So just with that selected, you can see that the page parameter is there and index is available to us. So just choose that, and that is all that we need to do. Once we've got that, we know that we're now going to have that note stored within our inside our page state variable. So we can close that down. That's great. So now we got that, we can then load that into our actual component itself. So just with the component here selected, we can now go down here and we can pass in and that value. So just hit where it says note. Let's just select that, and of course we're going to move to our page state, and here is our note like that, and just hit confirm. So we're going to pass that in. You can see one of my errors is probably just going to disappear. There it goes. We're down to 1. The last thing that we need to do is pass in the index, and that is because within inside the component itself, of course, we're making changes to our application state. We're kind of updating our sticky notes, so we need to pass in the index just as we've done on the home page itself. So with that selected, just choose that, and of course here we've got the page parameter. Just choose the index, and that is all hooked up, and that hopefully will go green. There it is. So we're in a great state there. So what we'll do, we'll come back and we'll update these particular sort of sections in a minute, but pretty well much that's that wired up. So let's move on to the next bit. So back then within our sticky page, there's a couple of little further adjustments that we need to do here. Now our sticky note container here, you can see is rather small. We can just remove these constraints that we got here on the right hand side. So let's delete the width and the height out. That's fine. We can also as well just clear the actual color here. So with this selected, you can see we've got this lovely looking new palette here. Of course, probably by the time you watch this, maybe 3 months time, this will be quite common to you, but we've got this palette here, this displayed. Click on this particular option in the custom color, because there's no easy way to actually clear the color. You have to click on the color picker and then hit this clear color option. Now it's likely that the Flutter Flow team will probably move the clear color option to maybe somewhere a bit more convenient on that particular palette at the time that you're actually watching this, but we just remove that. We don't really need the color. We don't really want this container to kind of have any kind of visual characteristic, because there's a whole reason to why we need this in here. Now if we were to run this particular application up now, let's just say we had everything hooked up and we were to navigate to this particular page, what's going to happen is that the page is going to draw, it's going to render. This particular sticky note is going to be rendered, but it's going to throw up an error probably behind the scenes, because there is no, at the time that the actual the rendering is actually occurring, the sticky note is still being retrieved from the application state variable. It's probably a fraction of a millisecond, but it likely will throw an error. So what we need to do is we need to conditionally control the visibility of this until the actual note has been sort of been retrieved from the application state and displayed inside the UI. Now what I've done is I put this here just purely to control that. So with the sticky note container selected, we just need to go up here and we need to now put a conditional check on. So just toggle that on. We just want to select this here and we want to then put a single condition on. So just choose the condition, but set the single condition option here. Let's set the first value, and just with this one selected, we want to move down to our page state here. We want to choose the note and just hit confirm, and we just need to change this where it says equal to, and we just need to say is set like that. That's all that we need to do. Confirm that. So we now know that this container will be displayed once the note has been set, and we know that's going to happen because at the very top level, of course, we're pulling that out and we're then saving that within inside the page state variable at that particular point. Let's now work on the actual navigation to this particular page. Let's go over to the home page. Let's go and do that now. So back on the home page then, which we haven't been to for a while, but down here on the left hand side inside the widget tree, we've got the note component, and this is where the magic will happen for us to navigate. So with the note component selected, open up the action flow editor, and then we've got this on double tap event here that we want to kind of hook onto. So just choose the on double tap. add the action, and we just need to simply just type with actually, in fact, it's right there, navigate to. So just with that navigate to selected, we can now choose the sticky page option. So choose sticky page. And then what we need to do is we need to then pass some parameter values in. Now, if you remember back, we created the page parameter, which is the index. So just with this option here selected, just choose pass. And we've got the index option selected here. Just select that. And then the value that we're going to pass in is going to be the note item. And of course, choose the available options, and it's going to be the index in list. So you probably need to wind yourself all the way back to one of the much earlier episodes where we were obviously doing this kind of thing previously. So there it is, index in list. That will give us our position, and that's what we'll be passing in. So of course, if it's the first sticky note, it will be 0, because of course everything starts from 0 when we're talking indexes, and of course 1, 2, 3 depending on what position it is. So that's got what other options we've got here. We've got kind of got the transition type. Now we're going to kind of use the application default here, but if you wanted to, you could select different ones. So you can slide up, slide down. You can do all kinds of kind of crazy sort of transitions. The instant is one that's just to draw attention to, is that is if you are not looking to implement any kind of animated kind of transition to another page, then instant is what it says. It's instant. It's just like you don't see any kind of fancy animation or anything like that. It's just right on the screen. Now that's one that I use quite common, because when I'm building web applications, I'm not particularly too worried about having these kind of sort of fading kind of sort of transitions to screens and stuff like that. So but we'll keep it default for now, which will kind of get that sliding effect when we're actually running this up in a more sort of run mode or a published web state version. So we're just going to keep it as default for now. Duration, you can kind of put some sort of slow the sort of transition down. We're not going to make any changes to that here. Allow back navigation, we've kind of got this here, so we can kind of hit back in the browser and we can kind of go back. Or if you are on a mobile device, for example, you've got like kind of the back option, you swipe back and you go back to the previous page. You've got all of those sort of features on here as well. So that's going to now move us to our sticky page. That's all that we need to do. Hit the close there, and that is it. So I'm just wondering now whether there's anything we've missed here, and I'm more nervous now to quickly run this up, because it's been quite a while since we've actually run this application up with all of these changes that we've made. So we've probably made some mistakes along the way. So let's fire this up. Let's see what happens, and if we break it, we'll come back and fix it. So let's give it a go now. Okay, so here's the application running here. Let's give this a whirl, hit the plus. Let's add a blue one in here. Let's just put some test note in here like that. Hit the save. Let's just put another one in here. I'm going to really push myself out here. Hopefully this is going to work. So test note again, something like that, and hit that there. So let's now double click on one of these notes. Let's double click on this one here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We've actually navigated to the page. We've got a little bit of a transition animation, which is nice. So, of course, we can now make changes to this note, just as we've done previously. That's no worries. It's exactly the same. Hit the check there. That's now going to be persisted back to the application state. Now, of course, we'll try to go back here, but we haven't actually added the kind of the back navigation to actually go back. But, of course, I can simulate here by right-clicking and hitting back here. And so we kind of got some of the functionality in place there, but we can now go back over to sort of Flutter and sort that. So we're making good progress. There's still some bits that we need to do. It'd be great to get some animations in there as well when we sort of double click over here. It'd be nice to see some animations playing out as we navigate to that particular page. So of course we can come and do that very shortly. So let's move back over to Flutter and let's carry on. Okay, so back within our sticky page, let's now put that navigation on here on the back icon back. Now let's move over here to the action. So here, now we don't actually need to go into the action flow editor, because this is just really simple kind of action we can put here. You can just choose add action at this point, and of course we can just hit the navigate back option. That's all that we need to do. It's as simple as that. So that's that done. Let's give our title a different title here. I'm not sure. It says sticky note, so I'm just going to call this one my note or something like that, just to make it a little bit different. And I think what would be really nice is with inside this application, we actually do now apply some animations. But what we're going to do is we're going to apply them on the home page, and then we're going to copy those. We're going to bring those back into this particular page as well. So with the home page selected, let's look at sort of animating perhaps the sticky notes title that comes in. So with the sticky notes title selected here, we'll do it on the title text like that. And then with inside the actions itself, just to move over to the actions here, we're going to do this on page load. Choose the add animation, and we are going to do a bit of a fade and a slide. So we're just going to choose the fade option here first. I'm going to say apply the same duration because, of course, we're going to play this out exactly the same time as the next animation. So we're going to put a duration of 200 in there, so it's pretty quick. And with the delay, we're just going to give our page kind of time to kind of almost like initialize to kind of do that initial draw. So I'm going to start the animations just a little bit later once that's occurred here. So that's fine. So this is fine. We're just going to ease in. That's no problem. Let's add a brand new animation in. We're going to do the slide animation just like that. Now we're going to move down here to the scales. Now this is going to be a horizontal here. So we're going to kind of bring this in perhaps from the right to the left. So our initial position is going to be 10, so we're 10 plus in. If I now just kind of maybe just preview that, you can just see it's sliding in just like that. Now, of course, I could do minus here if I wanted to do a sort of come in from the opposite direction, just hit preview. You can see it coming in. Actually, I'll tell you what, I like that better, actually. I think I'll keep it as minus 10. So that's good. So we can now just select this here. We can say copy all animations, so we kind of got that available to us. Now we can go now to the sticky notes page and we can now apply those animations actually throughout all of these widgets that we've got. So let's choose the back icon button, move over to the animations option here, just paste all animations in. You just need to remember to put that toggle on here to apply the same. If I just preview that, you can just see it sort of sliding in here. And we're going to do also as well the same for the notes as well. Move over there, we can paste all the animations in, just choose the same duration. And of course, what we can also do is we can do the actual sticky note container as well. So we just select that, move over to the animations, we can paste the animations in there, apply the same there. If I now preview all, you can kind of see that they're just coming in like that. I'm just kind of wondering whether I might have kind of said minus and it might actually have been better actually now looking at that. Just goes to show you trial and error. This great thing about Flutter Flow is you can kind of trial and error here. I'm just wondering whether it should actually be coming in from the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go through and I'm just going to change all of these back to 10 because I actually do think that that is actually better. So yeah, we can just quickly do that. It's funny, isn't it, how you can kind of be designing these things in flight and you kind of think, do you know something that doesn't quite look right? Let's now preview all of these. There we go. That's a little bit nicer. I'm going to go back to the home page. I'm just going to do the same for my sticky notes text. Just bring that in here. Just do on the 10 like that. So that's all nice and consistent. So we've got a nice bit of animation in there. I'm sure that's going to work pretty good for us. With inside the actual sticky page itself, we need to handle the situation when we actually delete now that particular the actual sticky note itself. We want to kind of come up with this warning. We wanted to kind of say that you're absolutely sure you want to delete this sticky note. So let's now go and add in a confirmation alert to actually say that do you actually really want to delete that? And that's really quite straightforward to do. So we can go into the actual note component itself again, because this is a component. The great thing about this is we can do it in one place. We don't need to do it in many, which is great. With the actual delete icon selected, we've already got actions there. If I go to the actually choose the actions and open up the action flow editor, we can now put some sort of checks around here. We're going to put these in a positive, so somebody actually clicks on OK with inside the dialog, we can actually just put those in there. So but for now I'm just going to hit the little plus here for now. I hit the add action in. Now I'm going to look for the word confirm like that. So we've got a confirmation dialog. So just choose confirmation dialog. So I'm going to put just a title in saying, are you, actually I'm just going to say delete sticky note, something like that. Okay, and I'm going to say, are you sure you would like to delete this sticky note like that, a question mark. I'm going to put cancel and I'm going to put keep the confirm there. That's fine. That's all that we need to do. And then what I can now do is if I hit the little plus here, I can add a conditional in. And now what this is going to do, this is automatically going to put in for me the kind of the confirmation dialog response. So we know that if we hit OK here, we're going to end up in this direction. Of course, false, we're going to move down there. So what I can now do is I can now just copy these out here. So I'm just going to say, in fact, I'm just going to say copy action here. I should have done it probably a slightly different way before. So just paste those actions in. Maybe it would have been better for me to actually, let's just paste those in here. There we go, like that. Let's just remove these out. I should have cut them, but there you go. Let's just cut that one out, and then let's just cut that one out like that. There we go. So we've got the alert dialog box. We're going to go in this particular direction. We say true. We're going to update the app state, and then we're going to execute a callback. Other than that, we're just going to not do anything. We're just going to sit there and expect the user to be carry on. Just hit close. That's all in place for us. So the last thing that we're going to do now is that when we actually delete the sticky note, we're going to want to return back to the previous page. So what we need to do is we need to go over to the sticky page here, like that, and we need to select the note component just here, and we need to move down here to the right hand side, the on delete action here. So we're going to get that callback that we just pasted into that kind of the actual confirmation dialog kind of check. So on the delete action, just open that here, and of course we can add the action in, and we can just say navigate back like that. So it's going to just take us back to that particular page. Right, we made a few changes here. Let's spin this up and let's see how it performs. Okay, so let's see all our changes in effect then. So let's double click on this, and you can see that we got a bit of a subtle animation going on. The back button there should be working for us, which is great. I must admit, I'm still not particularly crazy about that particular animation. I think what would be nice is if the kind of the circle here is dropping down from the top here, and then this is coming up from the actual bottom of the page, just a little bit more, become a little bit more visual, because at the moment the animation's kind of moving with the kind of the page change, but we can correct that. We can make those adjustments, but that's looking pretty good. Let's now try then deleting this particular sticky note. Let's hit that, and we've kind of got this delete sticky note option that's coming up. Just hit confirm, and then that's brilliant with that sticky note deleted, and then of course we're returning back to this particular page. So that is looking really good. Just one additional thing to point out here is I've used a standard kind of like dialogue that actually comes with inside Flutterflow, but of course you can, if you wanted to, create a component itself that has a little bit more of the in-keeping look and feel of your application. You can actually display that there as a dialogue box, and of course you can then do everything else that you can do with a regular dialogue. You can kind of do that with inside a component itself. So yeah, just have a look at that as an option to extend the look and feel of your application if you want something a little bit more in keeping. So maybe something with rounded borders or something like that, using the sort of look and feel of your application. So that's looking pretty good. Let's quickly go and sort those animations out, and hopefully that should give us a little bit more of a visual, powwow maybe. I don't know, but let's give it a go. Okay, so with our back icon selected, let's move with the animations here. So let's remove the horizontal. So let's just set that back to 0. Now we're into a vertical position here. So we've got the initial position. Let's just do a -10. So if I just preview that, you can see that just coming down from the top there. Now with the actual sticky note itself, this with that selected, let's move down here. Let's move the initial position, set that back to 0. Now the vertical side, the initial position is 0, which is we want to change. The final position is there. So with the initial position, let's do this as say 10. So it'll be 10 pixels to the bottom. If I now preview all, then you can see we've now got something hopefully that will look a little bit different when we fire this up. So let's try that now. Okay, so here we are again. Let's double click on this. And there you go. We've got a little bit more of a better look and feel now. So just goes to show you really do need to kind of tinker with the animations there to kind of get them to how you want to look. But I think that looks much nicer now. Looks a little bit more professional. So yeah, that's looking really, really good. Okay, so let's now move on to the next bit. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the video. Let's just cover some important bits before we finish there. This is where we were a little while ago here in a few episodes back. This is where we are now. There's more greens on the board. There's more yellows on the board. Hopefully we've covered quite a lot of the fundamental stuff there. And of course, Flutterflow is a huge product. There is so much more available to it. And we really probably only skimmed the surface, but hopefully it's enough there for you to kind of now move forward and start learning more about Flutterflow itself. Now, that really just leads me to kind of say, look, thank you so much for watching this particular series. If you've been there right from the very, very first episode, you've done 5.5 hours worth of learning. And of course, that's not including the time that you spent kind of stopping, starting, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so well done for that if you've got this far, and the output is what you're seeing as the last demonstration in this particular episode. The link is in the description, of course, if you want to gain access to the full project, just to kind of cross-check what you've done there. And of course, if you would like more Flutterflow coverage, more content content around even peripheral technologies in the no-code space, please go and check out the YouTube channel. But more importantly, please do come and visit us at the Digital Pros at No-Code Academy. If you love this type of learning, this kind of more slower paced kind of walkthrough, which is really my style, both across YouTube and across the Academy as well, and it resonates with you, then please do come and join us there as well. But if not, then keep as a subscriber to the YouTube channel. And of course, please do keep liking the videos. And if you haven't seen any of my back catalogue stuff, then please do go and have a look on both the Academy and on the YouTube channel as well. So that's pretty well much it. This is the end of series 1 or season 1, and this is the end of episode 16 as well. So a little tear in my eye, I'm going to have to say thank you very much, and I look forward to watching some of my content again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.